Hey, happy life, happy day, happy journey. Welcome to Facebook Live, Rhythmia's Facebook Live, Walking the Path. My name is John Jacob Mubarak, and I am one of the directors here at Rhythmia and an Agape licensed spiritual practitioner. And I'm super grateful to be here with you today. It is a rainy day here in Costa Rica. It is a rainy season, and it is raining, let me tell you. Lots of water everywhere. It's so amazing to see life come back. Hey, Robert. Hey, Dorota. Great to see you. I was just commenting to a friend the other day that here at Rhythmia, it's been dry for 6 months. We haven't had rain for 6 months. It's the dry season, and then May through November is the rainy season. And within a few days, everything resurged. Life came back. The grass that was brown is green, like verdant green, in days. And it just reminded me of the cycle of life, right? Hey, Lisa! And love from the Pocono Mountains, hello. It's raining there too, awesome. So today's title of the, look at Robert, really? I just saw your post. It's beautiful. Okay, so today's title is What the Flux? What the Flux? WTF 2020, What the Flux? There's a lot going on in the world. Hello from London, Mia. Hey, Anthony, great to see you. The idea here is, I had to write it down. 1 second, I have to refer to my notes. So, things are in flux. Things are in flux right now. They're all fluxed up right now. Stuff is fluxed up. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the nature. We're seeing life in its nature. The nature of life, we can see it everywhere. Everything is always in flux. Everything is always changing. The only thing that's permanent is change. We only see things rising, being born, something being birthed, something rising to its zenith, and then beginning to decline, fading away, and something new comes in. This is the cycle of life. This is what we see with the rainy season and the dry season in Costa Rica. And it's what we see going on right now. That there is an old system that is grasping for its last breath. Something is declining, and when things look like the wheels are coming off at the hinge, right? Things look like things are falling apart. And we can wring our hands in despair. Or we can say, this is the nature of life. This is the nature of our existence. That things dissolve so that something new can come in, and now what new is seeking to emerge? So the nature of life is growth and dissolution. The nature of life is insight, revelation, and dissolution. Something new insight comes in, something must dissolve so something new can come in. But more importantly, we can see that in this nature, that chaos is always the precursor to order. That confusion is always the precursor to clarity. And so rather than wringing our hands and going, look at what we're caught in, we can say, there's something moving, there's something emerging, what is it? And then what we know is chaos and confusion are one aspect that is seeking to have clarity and peace emerge. This brings me to the nature of duality. This is a universal principle, that the nature of our existence is that we live in duality. And duality always signifies one thing. That's the irony, right? Is that two come from the one. So if we're looking, for example, at hot and cold, two polar opposites, hot and cold, and you have a spectrum, right? Here's cold. We know this is absolute, really freaking cold. And this is really hot. Now, in those degrees, degree by degree, where does cold become hot? Can we pinpoint the place where cold becomes hot? No, it's a gradient. In fact, cold and hot are really the polar expressions of one thing. They're the same thing, temperature. If we look at the poles of our planet, the North and the South Pole, polar opposites expressing the single axis mundial of the world. So the same thing with love and hate, right? These are gradients, but any opposite, the opposites are formed in relation to each other, and they are formed by each other. They are the same thing. And so when we look at what's going on, rather than wringing our hands and saying, oh, everything is falling apart, what we're called to do right here and right now is to see the truth that no matter what the appearances are, no matter what it appears to be love and hate seems to be winning, we can say love is seeking to emerge. That even this representation is a representation of one thing, and that one, and by opening ourselves up to see that wholeness, we then allow ourselves to gradually, gradiently move into an awareness of oneness, of wholeness, of love, of peace, of clarity. So our job in this time is to be a place for peace to emerge, to be a place for love to emerge, to be a place for order and balance and harmony and clarity and wisdom and intelligence to emerge. And that is our work as spiritual individuals. And man, I felt, these last 5 nights watching TV, being glued to the live broadcasts, looking on social media, I could feel the pull. There was one pull to numb out, right? Like whatever compulsive behaviors I wanted to engage in that would help me numb out, that's what I wanted to do. There was another pull to a call to prayer, a call to meditate, a call to be in silence, because I know that my mind matters. Your mind matters. Our energetic contribution matters. And so we guard our words, we guard our thoughts, because we are contributing to a whole. And we know that when groups of people get together and meditate, it changes real life. There were studies done on groups meditating in war-torn areas. And during the week that those people meditated in that war-torn area, violent crime decreased, domestic violence decreased, robberies and theft decreased, incidents of armed forces interacting decreased. And when they left, all those things went up again. So we know that we have a contribution to make to the whole. And so our call to action is to go into a deep realization that only one thing is happening. When we can look and see in the duality the wholeness. In fact, Joel Goldsmith says that the consciousness that heals is the consciousness that sees wholeness. Have you ever talked to somebody who doesn't think very much of you? And maybe, well, I'll speak for myself. I've had the experience of speaking to somebody who I know thinks I'm just full of shit. And I can feel their judgment and opinion about me. And trying to speak into that, is very difficult. At the same time, I've had the experience, and I'm sure you have too, of speaking to someone who just thinks you are the bee's knees, just loves you, thinks the best of you, and holds you big, like they see you for who you are, who you really are. And when you speak to them, anything you speak is possibility, right? That's how important our consciousness is. Can we hold in this time the possibility of peace, the possibility of love, the possibility of justice, the possibility of a kind and just global society that works for the best and highest individual and collective good? That is what we must anchor in our consciousness first. And then from that awareness, right action expresses through us. It might be to go out and march in a peaceful protest. It might be that you're a lawyer and you want to go defend somebody. It might be that you want to do some pro bono work. It might be that you can go to one of those sites and to where people are protesting and hand out hand sanitizer and sandwiches. Who knows what form of right action is being called forth from you? The invitation is to allow that right action to emerge from a consciousness of wholeness, from an awareness of peace, from an awareness that all things are working together for our good. This realization that even though we see dichotomy, we see duality, that the duality is really a gradient expression of one thing, that both hate and love, light and dark. You know, where does the morning begin and the night end? Right? It emerges slowly. There's no pinpoint. So night and day are really the same thing. They're just, there's polar opposites, and then there's the gradient expressions in between that connects them. So we must be the consciousness that sees not colored skin and a police officer, that sees male or female, that sees rich or poor, that sees self or other. We have to be the consciousness that sees the wholeness, that sees, even though I see man and woman, I know that those poles are actually representation of the same life force. The one thing. From one many. E pluribus unum. Right? From one many. For energy is neither created nor destroyed, but transferred or conveyed into various forms. So from a singular energy, all duality emerges. From a singular source, all variety emerges. So our job then is to see this wholeness. We are to be the consciousness that heals. And we have a real job to do here, because as we can anchor into this realization, as we can see through the confusion, see through the apparent duality to the wholeness, we then become a channel for that peace to emerge. It's seeking to emerge. It's here. Peace is here. Love is here. Joy is here. Abundance is here. Justice is here. They're only suppressed by limited perception. They're only suppressed by where they're not allowed, where they're limiting them through our limited point of view. It's all there. We just are looking here. How can we open up the aperture to see the truth? You remember the story about the 100th monkey? A book that was done. In essence, the point of the book was there's a group of scientists on uninhabited islands off the coast of Japan that were studying these monkeys. And they would throw sweet potatoes out on the beach, go around in boats and throw sweet potatoes out on the beach. And the monkeys would eat the sweet potatoes. They were doing some study. And one of the scientists noticed that one of the monkeys, a female monkey, began to wash her sweet potato before eating it. And then pretty soon some other monkeys started doing that in her little group. And then that spread more and more. And by the time the 100th monkey on that island began washing the sweet potato, all the monkeys on all the islands washed the sweet potato. We see it in the mindset of a mob, right? Mass mind, right? We are connected to each other. We are influenced by each other's energies. So what we are called to do as individual light workers and light warriors, we are called to be a place for the consciousness of wholeness to emerge, and we do it by anchoring in spiritual truth. And the spiritual truth is that behind every duality is a singularity. That anything that seems opposite is really just an expression of the same thing. And when we can hold that consciousness, and the more of us that do it, and there's all these calls to meditation, join as many of those as you can. Be a participant. Get people in your community to begin to act together as we act together in peace, as we, in the conversations that we have, instead of wringing our hands, oh, this is awful, look at those looters, we are going to see wholeness. We are going to be the consciousness that heals, just in our beingness. And then, from that awareness, action, right action takes place. Right action takes place. So, I'm just looking at some of the comments. Limited by perception. Yes, we can always choose between hate and love. The realization is that hate and love are the same. Here's what I'm noticing. I'm noticing my natural, my natural desire to argue. Like my family, there's some people in my family that don't have the same perspective as I do. And it's just the looters, the rioters, right? I see peaceful protesters and I see people that are trying to take advantage of the situation. But I see a whole peaceful protest, and I see the peaceful protest as being an expression of what's really happening for people, right? That this is real. But there's another perspective out there that says, this is isolated, it's not systemic. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, the myth of systemic racism. Oh, it's a myth? Really? Okay. But that's a perspective. And I can't just say, oh, it's a myth, really? You're screwed, I'm right, you're wrong. How can I bring my consciousness of wholeness there? Get curious about that person's perspective. Why do you think it's a myth? Let's talk about that. Maybe I can learn something from them. Maybe they can learn something from me. But democracy is predicated on us speaking the truth to each other and being okay when we disagree. Because I disagree with you doesn't mean you're a worthless piece of shit. But really, that's how cantankerous things have gotten with a president that seeks to divide and seeks to sow hatred. We must look, oh man, let me read this to you. I was caught by Abraham Lincoln's quote, and it is so profound today. This was a quote from Abraham Lincoln. I think it was, I can't remember the name of the famous speech, but it's from his, famous speech during the Civil War. He says, "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passions may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. Though passions may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory will swell when again touched, as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature." Right? This is so poignant for today, right? I'm passionate that I don't think that those who think that this is a myth are right. I'm passionate about that, but I can't let that strain the truth that we are all citizens of the globe, that we are all citizens of this planet and of the human race, that we have more in common than we have separate. It gets so easy to steel ourselves against one another. But let the better angels of our nature guide us to a realization that we are one, that there's more that unites us. Do you remember, those of you who remember 9/11? Do you remember the days after 9/11? It didn't matter if you were conservative or liberal. It wasn't even a concern. We were Americans, right? There was a national sense. Well, we are global citizens now. We're humans. We're humans, and it's popping up in the UK, in Australia, in China, in Germany, in France, all over the United States. There was a march here in Costa Rica, in San Jose. All over, people are responding not just to the dynamics of race, but to the dynamics of power. We're really talking about the dynamics of power here and what it is when one person holds power over another. And this is as ancient as human tribes, self and other. That's it. It's dichotomy. And that's what we were talking about, the world of duality. It seems like there's another out there, but really we must see through the false appearances of that to the truth of our wholeness, to the truth that we are one, to the truth that there's one energy, one source, and it is connecting us all, that there is not one person that isn't a direct emanation of a divine love and beauty and intelligence. And that's what we must see. I'm not saying that you have to love everybody. I'm not saying that you have to like everybody. What I'm saying is that we must be the harbingers of a consciousness that heals, of a consciousness that sees wholeness despite the appearances. And how do we know that peace and harmony and order and balance and clarity are seeking to emerge in the midst of this chaos? I'll refer to my good friend and brother, Panache Desai. I loved his example that he gave when he was here at Rhythmia. There's a hurricane going on, and you're on the ground floor of the hurricane. It's chaos, no order anywhere. Now imagine you're in a plane, 30,000 feet in the air, and you look down, you can start to see the houses in rows in order. You can see a grid of the streets, right? There seems to be some order there that's starting to emerge from the chaos. And then if you are in a satellite, looking down at the beautiful brown and green and blue and white orb, this marble of the beautiful earth floating in the black screen of space, you can start to see some order and balance, the swirl of the hurricane. So chaos is an effect of proximity, but from enough distance, we can see the order emerging. It's all happening at the same time. Chaos, order, harmony, all happening at the same time. In the midst of the chaos, can we be an opening? Can we be an avenue? Can we be a landing strip for more good, more peace, more joy, more love, more understanding, more justice, more compassion to emerge? That is the call to action. And another spiritual principle is the law of correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. So I must bring peace to my own house. My brother, who is a staunch Trump supporter, and my sister, who is an evangelical, who kind of think they love me, I love them, and they kind of think I'm wacky, but which is true. But if I can't have love in my heart for them and their opposing view, just as they are, without trying to convince them, if I can't have love in my heart for them, how can I expect there to be love on the streets? And if we're really honest with each other, if I'm honest with myself, I know that when I'm talking to my brother about politics, as much as I'm trying to be open and explain myself and not make him wrong, really, what's underneath is, it would be amazing if he just said, bro, you're right. I never thought of it that way. Now I can totally see your perspective. You're right, and I'm wrong. I'd be thrilled. Now, if you don't think he feels that energy, even though I'm trying to be all peace and love and everything's okay, underneath, if I'm really honest with myself, I'm trying to convince him. I'm trying to persuade him. That's how deeply aware we must be. We must clean up our own house. We must get into meditation. We must get into prayer. We must bring an awareness to this in ourselves so that we can be at peace in ourselves, so I can love my brother no matter what. And then I can spread that. I can love the person that I see on a news channel that I don't agree with. Because it's so easy to allow that hate, that disdain, if they don't see that, I don't even know what to say. Where do I begin with how wrong they are, right? There's no way we're going to get anywhere. We're just going to get more polarized. We must reach around. We must reach around to the other side. We got to reach around to the other side. And we can do that by anchoring in spiritual principle and knowing that it's the same. Black and white, Republican and Democrat, man and woman, male and female, gay and straight, Muslim and Christian. Opposites having their unique expression of the same thing, of one wholeness, one thing. So this is where we begin to see what we can do right here and right now. Get our house in order. Get our own house in order. Get my heart open. Get into my heart space. Just get into love. Get into, can I forgive that person closest to me? Can I see wholeness in that person closest to me who has an opposing view? Can I get curious about their view? Why do you think that racism is a myth? Why do you believe that they're all the same, looters, rioters? Let's get curious with each other. Let's have honest communication with each other, because if we don't speak the truth, if we let our lives be like an algorithm and just get fed the things that are in our agreement reality, we are solely going to steel ourselves against the possibility of reaching around to the other side. So we've got to break the algorithmic hold that social media has on us. And we need to, the call to action, the invitation, is to reach around. Is to reach across to the other side. Yeah, I did make a little sexual reference there. To reach across to the other side. To see the wholeness in the midst of division. And to realize through spiritual principle, one, of the nature of life. 3 principles we talked about today. 1, the nature of life is growth and dissolution, birth and death. It's the nature. We're in the process of a dissolution of something that no longer serves, and we're in this grasp of it right now. Our call first, that's the first principle, the nature of life. 2, the nature of duality. That although things appear to be dual, they're a variant gradient of the same thing. Love and hate, war and peace, black and white, night and day, Muslim and Christian, male and female. Duality, we see through the duality to the wholeness. That's the consciousness that heals. The consciousness that heals is the consciousness that sees wholeness everywhere, all the time. We train ourselves. There's the invitation. And thirdly, the law of correspondence. As within, so without. As above, so below. So I must bring my house in order, bring myself to a place of peace, so that I can then listen to the right action that's being called forth, so that I can bring peace to my environment. I love you too, Hillary Carr. Thank you. Michelle, hello. I'm just looking at some of the comments. I am divine. I love it. Virginia, thank you. Michelle, Rachel, Antoine, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so I think this is our Facebook Live for today. Went almost a half hour. I really only intended to be 15 minutes, but I guess I can be a little long-winded. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to speak with you. I'm so grateful for this time. I stand in a deep awareness right here and right now that only one thing is happening, that there's a presence, and it is perfect, and that perfect presence is an action. That all activity we see right here and right now is the singular activity of God. No matter what the appearances are, we are called out from among them to see the truth. From many, one. From one, many, and from many, one. The same energy, the same energy, the same energy expressing. So we see the wholeness. We are called as conscious light workers and light warriors to see wholeness everywhere we go. To see the wholeness within ourselves, for so within as without. I see the wholeness in me. It meets the wholeness in you. No matter what your perspective is, no matter whether you agree with me or not, you're whole and complete. I need not try to change you. I need not try to cajole or persuade you. If I can bring that awareness to every conversation, imagine what energetic openings would occur. So I see this truth, I see this wholeness, I see this deep knowing that we are one. One with God, one with spirit, one with love, one with beauty, one with peace, one with harmony, one with compassion, one with life itself. And in that oneness, I know that there's only one activity. It is the activity of God. And we now open our awareness to see that activity expressing itself everywhere. All we see is wholeness. Knowing the truth that order and balance and goodness are seeking to emerge. We see in our consciousness now a kind and just global society that works for the best and highest individual and collective good. We see it for ourselves. We see it for others, no matter what their political orientation is. One. 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 So grateful to speak this word, so grateful to know this truth. I rejoice in its fulfillment. I know it's true, so it's already done because it's true. The truth is the truth. It doesn't change. It's already done. We're one. It's already done. Truth resonates with the truth. It amplifies, it magnifies. It doesn't change, but it's not stagnant. It's dynamic, so there's an ever-expanding awareness of this truth. And I know that each one in the sound of my voice catches that expansion, steps into the invitation, and allows love to take over and guide us, lead us. So I give thanks. I'm so grateful. And so it is. Amen. All right. See you guys later.